Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It is Saturday, January 10th, 2026. And wow, my head is still spinning. We are fresh off the heels of CES 2026 in Las Vegas. And if you thought last year was crazy with the generative AI boom, this year just completely rewrote the script. I'm Jane, your guide through the gadget chaos.
And I'm Joe, here to make sure we don't just get blinded by the shiny lights, but actually look at the balance sheets behind them. Jane, I have to say, usually CES is a lot of vaporware, but this year, the tone was different. It felt like the infrastructure we've been building for the last 3 years finally found its body. Before we dive in, though, a quick reminder to our listeners. If you want to stay ahead of the market and the trends, make sure you smash that subscribe button. We're breaking down the future every single week.
Absolutely. Please do subscribe. Okay, Joe, let's set the scene. Las Vegas Convention Center, 140,000 people. The theme this year wasn't just AI anymore, it was specific. The buzzword on everyone's lips was physical AI. It felt like we moved from chatbots on screens to robots in the real world. What was your take on the general vibe?
You hit the nail on the head. Physical AI was definitely the phrase of the week. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, basically anchored the entire event with his keynote on Sunday evening. His thesis was simple. We've spent 2023 to 2025 building the brains, the large language models, the reasoning engines. 2026 is about giving those brains a body. He talked about how the cost of robotic actuators has plummeted, while the intelligence to control them has skyrocketed. From an investment standpoint, this is the pivot point. We aren't just selling chips for data centers anymore. We're selling the inference engines for things that walk, roll, and hold things. That shift is massive for the semiconductor supply chain.
It really is. And we saw that physical AI everywhere. It wasn't just industrial arms, it was in the home. I want to talk about the robots because they were genuinely different this year. Remember the SwitchBot Kata? It's this small wheeled home assistant, but unlike the dumb vacuums of the past, it actually understands context. You can tell it, go check if I left the stove on. And it doesn't just bump into walls. It navigates to the kitchen, raises its camera, identifies the stove knobs, and reports back. That level of semantic understanding in a consumer device is wild.
Right, and let's look at the Ecovacs Little Milo, too. These pet robots are moving from toys to actual utility. But Jane, the financial angle here is the sensors. To make the SwitchBot Kata or the Little Milo work, you need LiDAR, you need advanced computer vision, and you need edge processing. You can't send every frame of video to the cloud for processing or the latency is too high. This is why we saw Intel pushing their new Panther Lake chips so hard. They're trying to claw back market share by saying, hey, you need AI compute on the device to run these robots. If these robots actually take off, and not the $800 to $1,500 price points we saw, they might. That's a huge new volume market for edge inference chips.
Speaking of chips and physical AI, we have to talk about the sheer number of smart glasses. It felt like 2026 is the year the phone starts to lose its grip as the only primary device. We saw the X-Real Ones, which is finally affordable at $449, and then the Rainio Project eSIM. The Rainio one fascinated me because they are pitching it as a phoneless experience. It has its own LTE/5G connection. You don't need a brick in your pocket anymore. Do you think consumers are actually ready to ditch the screen in their hand for a screen on their face?
I'm skeptical about the ditching the phone part in 2026. The battery density just isn't there yet for all-day standalone glasses, even with the efficiency gains. However, as an accessory, absolutely. The Asus ROG X-Real R1 was a standout for me because it targeted a specific niche, gamers. A 240 Hz refresh rate on a virtual screen, that sells. It's not trying to replace your life, it's trying to replace your monitor. That is a much easier sell. From a market perspective, I'm looking at who makes the optics. Most of these use micro OLED or micro LED tech. Sony is a big player there, but we saw some Chinese manufacturers like BOE showing off incredible densities. If smart glasses go mainstream, the display manufacturing sector is going to see a supply crunch similar to what happened with GPUs.
That's a great transition to the other big visual story of CES 2026, the displays. I walked into the Samsung booth and I swear I needed sunglasses. The micro RGB technology they debuted is insane. We've had micro LED for a while, but this micro RGB stuff, where they use separate red, green, and blue LEDs for every single pixel without color filters, the brightness is blinding and the color volume is perfect. They showed a 130-inch model that looked like a window into another reality.
Micro RGB is the end game for display tech. It has the contrast of OLED because it's self-emissive. Pixels turn off for perfect block, but it has the brightness of an LED billboard and no burn-in risk. The problem, as always with Samsung's new tech, is the yield. Manufacturing millions of microscopic LEDs and placing them perfectly is expensive. That 130-inch model? It's likely going to cost as much as a luxury car. But the fact that they have it on the floor means they are getting closer to consumer viability. What interested me more, though, was LG's response. They aren't doing micro RGB for the masses yet. They doubled down on OLED with the wallpaper W6.
Oh, the W6 was beautiful. It's 9 millimeters thick. It literally looks like a poster you stick to the wall. And it's completely wireless. The Zero Connect box beams the 4K 144 Hz signal to the screen from across the room. It solves the biggest ugly factor of modern TVs, the cable mess. But Joe, I have to ask, with Samsung pushing micro RGB and LG pushing this ultra-thin OLED, who wins? Or is it just a split market?
In 2026, LG wins the consumer wallet. OLED is mature, the prices have come down, you can get a decent OLED for under $1,000 now. This W6 is a premium product, sure, probably $3,000 plus, but it's manufacturable at scale. Samsung's micro RGB is a flex. It's them saying to shareholders, we own the future. But for Q3 and Q4 of 2026, LG Display is going to move units. However, keep an eye on Hisense and TCL. I saw them showing off RGB TVs as well. If the Chinese manufacturers figure out how to mass-produce micro-LED/RGB cheaper than Samsung, that stock price for Samsung Electronics is going to feel some pain. They cannot lose the high-end TV dominance.
Let's move to something that fits in your pocket. Or, well, fits in your pocket if you fold it enough times. Foldables. For years, we've been complaining about the crease, that little ditch in the middle of the screen. Well, Samsung finally shut us up. The creaseless foldable display they demoed was magic. I ran my finger over it and I couldn't feel a dep. They say it's a new polymer layer and a different hinge mechanism.
That creaseless tech is critical. The rumor mill, which was confirmed by some supply chain chatter at the event, is that Apple has been waiting for exactly this technology before launching the iPhone Fold. Samsung Display making this public at CES 2026 is basically a signal flare that the tech is ready for Cupertino. If Apple launches a foldable later this year using this panel, Samsung Display revenue goes through the roof. But that wasn't even the wildest phone, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was the Samsung Galaxy Z Trifold. We've seen concepts before, but this is a production unit coming out in early 2026. It has 2 hinges. It folds like a brochure. When it's closed, it's a thick candy bar phone. When you open one flap, it's a squarish tablet. When you open both, it's a massive 8-inch 16:9 widescreen display. It's literally a tablet that fits in your pocket. I played with it, and the multitasking is where it shines. You can have your email on the left panel, a browser in the middle, and a video call on the right.
The Trifold is the device that challenges the iPad mini and the lower-end tablets. It's the convergence device. But I worry about the durability. 2 hinges means twice the points of failure. And the thickness? It looked substantial.
It is a bit chunky, I won't lie. It's like stacking 3 phones. But for power users, it's a dream. And oddly enough, Motorola was there with the Razr Fold, which is a more traditional book-style fold, but they are focusing entirely on fashion and slimness. So you have this divergence, Samsung going for maximum utility with the Trifold, and Motorola going for maximum style.
Which is a smart play by Motorola. They can't out-tech Samsung, so they out-design them. But let's shift gears to something that might actually change the world more than a fancy phone screen. We need to talk about energy. Specifically, the announcement from Verge Motorcycles.
Oh, this was huge. For our listeners who don't know, solid-state batteries have been the fusion energy of the battery world, always 5 years away.
But Verge Motorcycles came out on stage and said, "We are putting an all-solid-state battery into production in the coming months. Not a concept, not a lab test, in a bike you can buy."
This is the black swan of CES 2026. If Verge is telling the truth, and they had working prototypes with incredible specs, it changes everything. They are claiming 370 miles of range on a motorcycle. For context, a typical high-end electric bike today gets maybe 150, 200 miles if you're lucky. And the charging, a 10-minute charge for 186 miles of range. That is gas station speeds. If this tech scales to cars, the EV slowdown we saw in 2024 and 2025 evaporates.
Why is it starting in a motorcycle, though? Why not a Tesla or a Lucid?
Cost and volume. Solid-state batteries are still incredibly expensive to manufacture per kilowatt hour. A motorcycle has a small battery pack compared to a truck. It's the perfect testbed. You can charge a premium price for a high-performance bike. The Verge TS Ultra is not cheap, to absorb the battery cost. But the signal here for investors is watching who supplied that battery. Was it QuantumScape, Solid Power, StoreDot? Verge was tight-lipped about the specific partner, but whoever cracks this manufacturing code first becomes the most valuable energy company on Earth. This announcement proves it's possible now, not in 2030.
It's exciting because it eliminates range anxiety overnight. And speaking of anxiety, let's talk about health, or as the marketing teams are calling it this year, longevity. It sounds a bit sci-fi, but the tech is getting very granular. I tried the Neurologix longevity mirror. You just sit in front of it, and it scans your face. It uses transdermal optical imaging to detect blood flow changes. In 30 seconds, it told me my heart rate, blood pressure, stress levels, and even estimated my physiological age. It was confronting.
Confronting, but valuable. The longevity economy is booming. We have an aging population in the West and Asia. Devices that allow for aging in place, staying in your home rather than a facility, are going to be massive. That mirror isn't just a gimmick, it's a remote diagnostic tool. Imagine linking that to your doctor. You look in the mirror every morning to brush your teeth, and your doctor gets a daily report on your vitals. If your blood pressure spikes, you get a call. This is the physical AI trend again. AI sensors monitoring real-world biology.
Exactly. And Withings was there with the Body Scan 2, which they call a longevity station. It's a scale, but it has a handle you pull up. It does a 6-lead ECG, measures nerve activity in your feet to detect neuropathy, which is huge for diabetics, and tracks segmental body composition. It's basically a hospital checkup in your bathroom. It feels like 2026 is the year health tech stopped being just steps and sleep and started being medical-grade data.
And not raises the privacy question, which was also a theme. With great data comes great liability. But companies like Apple and Withings are banking on the fact that people care more about living longer than they do about who sees their nerve activity data. From a stock perspective, I'm looking at the insurance companies. Are they going to start subsidizing these devices? If United Health or Aetna starts giving away Withings scales because it saves them money on emergency room visits, that stock is a buy.
We can't finish a CES wrap-up without talking about laptops. I know, laptops sound boring compared to robot pets and solid-state bikes, but the chip war this year was intense. Intel came out swinging with Panther Lake. They've had a rough couple of years, but these new Core Ultra chips seem to actually deliver on efficiency. And AMD answered with the Ryzen AI 400 series. The focus was entirely on the NPU, the neural processing unit. Every laptop is now an AI PC.
It is, and frankly, it had to be. Intel is fighting for its life. The benchmarks we saw on the floor suggest Panther Lake has finally caught up to Apple Silicon in terms of performance per watt, which is a huge achievement if it holds up in real-world testing. But the interesting player to me was Qualcomm. They unveiled the Snapdragon X2 Plus. They are attacking the budget and mid-range laptop market with ARM-based chips that have 20-hour battery life. The Windows on ARM ecosystem is finally viable. This squeezes Intel from the bottom, Qualcomm, and the top, AMD and Apple. I'm not sure Panther Lake is enough to save their stock price from stagnation unless they win big in the data center. But for consumers, competition is great. You can now buy a $600 laptop that lasts all day and runs local AI models.
And let's briefly touch on connectivity. Wi-Fi 8. We barely got used to Wi-Fi 7, and now Asus showed off a Wi-Fi 8 router prototype.
It's all about reliability and latency, not just raw speed. It's designed for those robots and smart sensors we talked about. If you have 50 physical AI devices in your house, you need Wi-Fi 8 to keep them from jamming each other.
It's the plumbing of the future house. It's not sexy, but it's necessary. So, Jane, looking at the whole show, the robots, the screens, the batteries, the health tech, what is your one must-have pick from CES 2026? What's the thing you actually want to buy?
Honestly, it's the X-Real Ones glasses. I travel so much, the idea of putting on a pair of normal-looking sunglasses on a plane and having a massive 120-inch screen to watch movies without carrying a bulky headset is worth the $449. It feels like the first augmented reality product that fits my actual life. What about you, Joe? Where is your money going?
My heart wants that Verge motorcycle, just for the tech demo of it. But my wallet, I'm looking at the smart home integration. I think I might finally upgrade to a robot that actually works, the SwitchBot Kata. The time-saving potential of a robot that can actually do things rather than just clean floors is compelling. If it can check my locks and verify my stove is off, that's peace of mind worth paying for.
We didn't even mention the car tech in depth, but there were eVTOL, flying car, prototypes, again, though still no commercial flight date, and the sheer amount of software-defined vehicles. Sony Honda Mobility showed off the updated Afeela, and it's basically a PS6 on wheels. But I think we've covered the heavy hitters.
We have, so let's wrap this up with the financial deep dive. Listeners, here is the cheat sheet for 2026 based on this week. 1. Nvidia, NVDA. They are no longer just a chip company. They are the robotics platform company. Jensen's physical AI keynote cemented that. They are building the brain, the nervous system, omniverse, and the muscles, actuator control. They are a stronghold or buy even at these valuations because the robotics TAM, total addressable market, is just opening up. 2. Samsung, SNSLF. The hardware innovation is back. Micro RGB and the Trifold show they are leading in R&D. If the Trifold sells well, it boosts their mobile ASP significantly. Plus, they supply the screens for everyone else. 3. Battery sector. Watch for whoever partnered with Verge Motorcycles. If it's a public company like Solid Power, SLDP, or QuantumScape, QS, and they confirm they are shipping production cells, that stock will double. If it's a private startup, look for the IPO. 4. Intel, INTC. Panther Lake is a show-me product. Good specs, but let's see sales. They are a risky bet right now compared to AMD or Qualcomm.
And for the regular consumer like me, 2026 is the year to upgrade your health tech and maybe consider a foldable if you're a power user. The TV can wait unless you have $50,000 for micro RGB, and the robot butler is finally getting smart enough to be useful.
Exactly. Innovation is compounding. The jump from 2025 to 2026 felt bigger than the last few years combined because the AI software finally met the hardware. It's going to be a wild year.
Thank you so much for tuning into this deep dive. We will be back next week to review the actual hands-on reviews of these products as they start trickling out to influencers. Don't forget to leave a comment. Would you trust a robot like Lil Millo to watch your house? And are you ready for a tri-folding phone?
Let us know. Subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and we'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious and invest smart.
Bye, everyone.